Hey guys, I'm Props, and today I'm going to show you how I made Guts Raider's sword from the anime Berserk using some foam core board and some PVC pipe. The first thing I did was got this sheet of poster board from the local craft store. This was like $3 for this like 4x2 sheet, and it's about a 1/4 inch thick, which makes it about the good thickness for the blade. And I just went through and cut out the rough shape of the blade, cutting out the tip and all of that with it, and then just making it so that it's slightly tapered down. And I actually made the blade in 2 parts and then just spackled the seam over, which you'll see a little bit further in the video. After cutting out the blade, I went through and started making the hilt portion, which is just 4 rectangles that are each about the same size, with 2 smaller rectangles sandwiched in between 2 of each set of the larger ones. And this just creates kind of the layered effect that Guts' sword has, or his Raider's sword has. After cutting everything out, I just went through and glued the hilt together, just gluing the 2 larger rectangles together and then the 2 other larger ones together, and then gluing the 2 smaller ones in between those to make that layer pattern thingy that I was talking about earlier. I then went through and sanded down the corners of the crossguard just using the sandpaper from my belt sander belt, and I just rubbed this across the corners of them just to kind of fillet them. I then went through and glued the 2 halves of the sword together. I did go through and add some pins in between the layers just so that there was a little bit of surface area for the glue to adhere to, and I just used some hot glue through this. If you want to use something like epoxy or something, I would totally go for that, just because it provides a stronger reinforcement for that little area, since a lot of weight is just going to be put on it. I forgot to record it, but I cut out these pieces for the pommel, and it just creates kind of this little rectangle part, and I just glued all those together using some hot glue, and then I sanded the corners of it down to create kind of a curved surface on the bottom of it that the sword in the manga has. I then went through and sanded down the edges of the blade, just using that same belt sander sandpaper to do it, because it's a pretty aggressive sandpaper, and I just did this up until the points on both sides met, and that's how I got that edge on the blade. You probably could do it a little bit neater than I did, but I wasn't super careful with it since this blade is obviously pretty worn in the manga and anime. I then went through and applied some spackling over the gaps in the crossguard, just using some of that lightweight spackling that I use on most of my props, and I just applied this using my finger this time. I wasn't super concerned about filling gaps, I just wanted to create kind of a watertight surface so that the spray paint that I used didn't eat away at the exposed foam. and so I just used this to fill that in. I also used it to fill in the seam on the blade where I glued it together. You could use some flexible spackling or something, but overall I've had this sword for a couple weeks now and it really hasn't fallen apart or done anything yet, so I think it lasts pretty well in the long run. I also filled in some of the lines on the pommel, just filling in those areas where I beveled it. I then went through and applied a layer of Mod Podge over the whole blade just to give it a little bit of flexibility. If you wanted it a little harder, you could use like resin or wood glue or something just to give it some strength and durability if you want to hit somebody with it, though I wouldn't suggest that since this poster board is pretty brittle itself. For the handle, I'm just using this piece of electrical conduit that I found, and I just glued that to the crossguard and the pommel. I did add some wooden dowels to the crossguard that fit into the blade so that it has a little bit more grip for the glue, and so that it kind of reinforces the blade that far up, just so that it doesn't break on me. And then I went through and applied some filler primer over the whole thing. You don't need to apply filler primer, I just wanted to apply some primer over the sword so that any paint that I put on didn't chip off or break or scratch off or anything. And then I went through and painted the whole thing with some black paint, and then applied some silver paint along the edge to create kind of that raised gray section that's on the sword. I didn't make that raised on mine, so I'm just giving the illusion that it is. And then I went through and wrapped the handle in some of this canvas cloth, and I kind of weathered this up a little bit, just kind of around in some dirt and some mud and stuff just to get it a little dirty like the one in the anime is. Overall, I'm really pleased with how this turned out. Yeah, I think it looks pretty accurate to the anime and the comics, and it's pretty size accurate and proportion accurate. I tried to get that as close as possible. It's actually bigger than me, and I'm like 6'1", so that's pretty cool that I finally have something a little bigger than me. All of my friends who have seen it have been like, that's freaking huge, so definitely a very cool prop to make, and very huge size wise. And I mean, it hasn't broken on me yet, as I mentioned earlier. I think it'd be pretty durable in the long run. You'd probably bring it to a con or something. Might do that at some point. Yeah, if you guys end up making it, be sure to tag me. My Instagram's reprops2003, so some of you guys might already be following that and see some of the projects that I'm working on, so be sure to do that. Some of you guys might have realized that I haven't posted a vid in a month, and that was just because exams got busy and I was trying to rush through getting stuff done for my Etsy, since, you know, Christmas time is kind of the busiest season for any type of shop, and so I was busy making orders for that, and I just never got around to recording any of this stuff in my videos. I did work on a lot of stuff, but I never got anything recorded, so I appreciate you guys watching this, and if you guys don't mind liking and subscribing, please do. I do realize this vid was a little different than most of my normal ones. It was a little slower, and that's because you guys asked me to change it up a little bit and go a little bit more in depth in my processes, so I did that. If you guys have any other recommendations or anything for things I should do, be sure to let me know, and I'll see you guys next vid. Bye.